Welcome to the Mate Ready podcast and to the first podcast of 2026. Adam, how you doing, dude?
Let's go. I am really happy to be here, dropping into the new year with a strong start, getting this podcast going. Happy.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's always it feels like a fresh slate. Despite us obviously having our own opinions on New Year's resolutions, it's a clean slate. We can write out what we want to achieve this year and how we want to operate.
Mm, mm.
How are you feeling about the year ahead?
I'm really excited. I think that from my own point of view, 2026 is shaping up to be a very pivotal year, and I'm ready to go to work on it. Like I'm ready to kind of give my best effort, not in a Goggins, Hormozy, get hard way. I'm talking about like just showing up and being consistent and giving some effort and seeing how you feel. Um, yeah, there's loads in the pipeline, obviously, and I'm eager to do the work day to day to enable that to happen. You know, to paraphrase
Yeah,
James Clear, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems, right? So
yeah,
it's all well and good having these big lofty goals, but if I'm not doing the work day to day, it's kind of pointless.
yeah, yeah. Definitely. I think that's our philosophy a lot, is focusing on the habits. What can we do on that day
Mm.
to sort of move ourselves forward? And and I also like setting big goals, but I've refrained from doing that at the moment. But you've planned your physical goals out for the year, right?
Yeah, I really wanted to kind of get some clarity on what it is I'm trying to achieve physically this year, and there's quite a few things that I've got in the pipeline of like what I'm looking forward to, and I'm not going to be one of those guys that keep your eyes peeled. I'll tell you everything later. Like no, I'm gonna share it with you all now, and because then there's that accountability. I've said it, but I need to kind of do it. So I'm doing some functional fitness style competitions throughout the year. There is a company called ATHX, so ATHX, and it's more like it's it's like I would say it's the middle ground between high rocks, if anyone knows what that is, and CrossFit. It's kind of like the middle ground, because CrossFit is an incredibly overwhelming sport if you want to compete, because you've got to be able to do all these crazy gymnastic skills that, quite frankly, aren't in my repertoire. They're just not. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying people shouldn't do it. I'm saying that it's just I am not doing handstand pirouettes. It's just not a thing. So, but then high rocks is, in my opinion, too far on the other side. Like there's not enough strength component to it. So there's this competition called AFEX that combines the two. That has a strength output, has an endurance output, has a metcon output, and it's like high rocks where they do the same workouts. So it's tested across a year, and then you can kind of get to finals, which is what my goal is for the year. So I've got a few competitions lined up, some overseas, some here in the UK, with the view to getting to AFEX finals in Paris in November, which is going to be, if I can do that, I'll be very very happy with myself, and I'll be very 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 excited. But that's not the big one, so to speak. Uh, a I read something a while ago. I think it was Ross Edgley talking about, and for anyone who doesn't know, I mean, you should all know who Ross Edgley is. He's the crazy man who swam around the coast of the UK, and he's the crazy man who swam around the coast of Iceland. He's the crazy man who has the world's longest swim, so non-stop. Um, like and he's also a muscly dude. Like he's not like he's not like a beanpole. He's a muscly dude, and he was speaking about this thing called Misogi, and it's like this idea that you should do a hard thing. And I wanted to look at it a bit more. And like misogi, where it comes from, it's like an ancient Shinto Tao practice of standing under a waterfall for as long as you possibly can as a rite of passage, which I find quite interesting. Um, But the modern translation of that, because obviously I'm standing under a waterfall for however long I can, isn't what I'm continuing to. But it's one significant hard challenge that challenges you to grow. Like it forces evolution. So whilst I haven't signed on the dotted line yet, I will be. I will be signing up to a ultra marathon over the mountains of Albania in September, which I think is going to be really cool because
It's awesome.
I'm not a runner and I don't like running. So hey, what better way to shed that self-imposed label than go and do an ultra marathon and document it? We'll see what happens.
It's awesome, mate. I love it. When you told me this morning about them, I was like, yeah, let's go, man. Yeah, and I like that concept. But Misogi, did you say?
Yeah, I'm obviously butchering in pronunciation because I don't really speak language
Yeah.
like that. It's Misogi or Mishogi. He
Yeah,
also
that's
speaks.
cool.
Ross Edgley talks about something called eudaemonia, and that's a Greek thing.
Okay.
It's
Right.
happiness of purpose in difficulty, which is like I'm paraphrasing that. So eudaemonia, the feeling you get when you're doing the thing. It's not like, oh, I'm at peace, I'm chill, I've got all the money in the world. It's like, no, you're working hard, you're putting in the effort, you're turning up day to day, and you get the feeling is eudaemonia. And I'm going to butcher
That's
this.
cool.
It might be Socrates that said it. I don't know. I might be chatting absolute rubbish, but I know it from ancient Greece or Rome.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that. Yeah, I'm a big fan of big, hard, challenging tasks. I personally haven't set one this year, and hearing you set your competition schedule and the ultra marathon, yeah, there's a big part of me is like, yeah, I want to do something. Equally, knowing ultra marathons out of my I haven't ran for ages, to be honest. So a few years ago, when I first launched this podcast, I was doing ultras, just around just wherever I could run, basically around my local park. I did 50 miles around my local park. It was a 5K circuit. It was very long and very flat though. So yeah, that challenge, I love that. I think it's really, really important, and especially as men, to help us commit to stuff, but also test ourselves. And I think that's really, really important. So I'm really looking forward to being with you along that journey and seeing you compete and hearing all about it, dude.
One thing I am going to do is I'm going to document it. The journey of like maybe it's the I hate running diaries or something like where I just document my running journey, like because it's I've seen so many people who say I'm going to do that and they just go and do it and they kill themselves, like they've proper injuries of like pure pain of like I don't want to do that. Obviously I've got a really great coach, so we're going to program that properly. We're going to kind of figure out how that works in my current remit of fitness. And I'm excited to document the journey and be like, okay, cool, this is what I'm doing, this is the reality of it. And it's not going to be some like Instagram influencer thing. Like it's just going to be hopefully authentic about who I am and go, this is for some reason this week I'm running 25k. I don't know why, but I'm doing it because my coach said I need to do it. So
yeah, it's awesome. When I was doing the long distance running, I didn't have a family, I didn't have kids. I think it was lockdown or around that time, and just hours out running, and it was so cathartic. After you get past the point of hating it, like getting to a point where you can actually go out and run for like 5 hours without headphones in is incredible. It's such like a meditative experience. You can process so much comes up. It's awesome. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing all the different parts of that journey, dude. So one of the reasons I haven't set any big goals at this moment in time, because I'm still in the sort of the winter clear phase. I've got a bad habit of overloading my plate basically, and it's something I'm really trying to get out of doing. So I've pretty much set myself till April-ish. I may set some bigger goals between now and then, but April, I would have cleared a lot of the stuff off my plate that I need to. So for me, the sort of the coming into the new years is still bringing new energy. It's still a blank slate, but really I'm focusing on how do I show up on the day to day? Because when I heard you this morning, when you were like, "Oh, I'm doing ultra marathon," I'm like, "Yeah, I need to get back on the mats. Maybe I do need to start training jiu-jitsu again and Thai boxing. Maybe I could compete at some point." But actually, that's not what I need. I need to be consistent. I need to just keep showing up daily and keep building.
Yeah, I think I saw something the other day where, and it was again very crude and rudimentary, but people saying, "Well, this isn't actually New Year. Spring is. That's when things grow. That's when things start to flourish. It's not now. Now is the depths of winter where people are like where the natural world is still kind of in a shutdown phase, that's quite interesting. I quite find, because obviously you said as well, and we're both doing it at the winter clear, where we're trying to just get things off of our plates and see how where we kind of lie in the lie of the land before we start adding crazy things to it. And I think that still continues now. Like just because it's January, whilst I may have set the competition schedule, I'm not going to go ahead and add anything crazy like, in the next 2 weeks I've got to do this or we've got to do that. And I think it's really important that that's something that I've written in my notes for today's show, is that I wanted to talk about actually what we class as human beings as New Year is completely at odds with when the world, the planet, starts to wake up. And I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's massive. I've spoken quite a bit about it, and as you say, we're in the depths of winter now, and I think something along the lines of Chinese New Year. So the Chinese New Year is on the second new moon after solstice, so it falls in around February time. And that's actually, according to certain teachers, when the original people of Britain, the Britanni, would have celebrated Imbolc, which is the first signs of spring. That's like when the snowdrops come out. That's when things start to happen. And that feels way more natural. And it makes sense, right? Why are we starting, arguably in like the worst time of the year? It's literally just happened. Solstice has just happened, and I don't know if anyone else has noticed. I feel like it's even got darker since solstice, which is quite odd. It's supposed to be you have the longest night at solstice, then it starts to get gradually lighter. But I feel like the mornings certainly are dragging out a bit. But it's certainly not a time for big change and big action. And I'm really trying to be that, like live with that nature, with that cycle a bit more. Don't get me wrong, we can't hibernate and sack off work all winter, but we can make steps towards that.
I think that's important as well. Like I'm not sat here saying, "Oh no, don't do anything until the 1st of April." Like no, like we still need to think about what it and how we're going to move forward and the consistency and all that good stuff. But I think it's, like you said, so many people now. I mean, I'm probably at odds with this. I've made a big decision to do an ultra marathon. I'm not doing it in 3 weeks' time. I'm going right in 9 months' time. In 9 months' time, I'm going to be. Actually, it is like I think it's like 9 months and 3 days. In 9 months' time, I'm going to be running over the mountains of Albania. But you still need to make that positive progress, right? And so I set my competition schedule because I realised. I said this to my coach as I left the military. I was like, I've got no standard to hold myself to. There's no this is where you'll be at this standard at all times, which the military give you year on year on year on year. You will be at these standards. And last year it was such a change of everything that happened in my life and all the things changed. I was like, right, okay, this year you need to have some anchor points from a fitness perspective. You need to not overdo it because so many people do that. I go, oh, we have a competition here, 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 and here, and they add like 20 competitions to their schedule and wonder why their body breaks down. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, what do I want to do? Well, something hard, and I want to qualify for the finals of this competition event because I think it would be quite cool. I think there's a lot to be said, and I'm excited for that competition schedule with hopefully not overdoing it. Hopefully, that's kind of.
Yeah.
I think I was going to ask you, because I've thought about this quite a bit. Like, what do we need less of in 2026? Like, you know, in the world of today, of like what the messaging of everybody shouting at you from their phones, and like, what do we need less of? And I circled on to, we need less hustle culture. Like, we need less do more, do more, do more, do more. No, actually, do we just need to do a few things really, really well, and that's it?
Yeah, it's a good question. And yeah, I'd be inclined to agree, to be honest. I think for me, certainly with, you know, ultimately that's a big part of this winter clear as well. It's just clearing stuff out. And although I'm going to be making changes and yes, sort of setting goals, but actually it's just the same goals, just clearing all the other stuff out. Kind of, yeah, less noise is and less information, I would say, as well. So for me, a big thing, I love listening to audiobooks and listening to podcasts. However, it does take you away from being present and with your thoughts. And just, you end up consuming so much information and not executing on any of it. And it can really, I think it adds distraction. And it takes away from your presence. And I'm not convinced it's very supportive for us. Certainly not for me. I know being present and having the space where I can sit with my thoughts, and just, yeah, you know, in my case, pray and speak to God and just be in, say, like in nature or whatever. That's really powerful for me, and that fills up my cup. Whereas, although I love the listening, the books and everything, you're ending up just listening. There's no way you can action all the stuff. So how can we be more present? And as you say, how can we do, select the things that we do and do them well, and be present while doing them?
I see so much of more is better, work harder, give more of your time. I see it. I see it like you can pick up your phone now, and you can scroll within inside 5 seconds of something like a black and white video of David Goggins running over, the Badlands Marathon, and saying, "Yeah, just get hard and work harder," and I think it can be such a destructive message, because one thing I kind of saw the other day, and I found it really interesting, is that when there's a message that comes out like, you need to do X, well, the people who you need to change that opinion to do X don't listen because they think they're right, and the people who are already doing X think they're not working hard enough, so they do more X, and it reaffirms that position and that opinion. And actually, it doesn't help. It doesn't help anybody, because the people who need it aren't listening, and the people who don't need it listen too much.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's true. It is, yeah. I think this is where the self-awareness, right? In my opinion, the emotional intelligence pillar comes in. And being able to really understand your own emotions and what you need do you need challenge? Do you need to commit to something, do something hard? Or do you need to not do that and do the opposite, spend more time being present, and relaxing and doing stuff more mindfully? But that, I think, comes with a few things: experience, and really developing your emotional intelligence. It also comes with having people around you, because it is also easy to let yourself off the hook all the time. And having men around you to challenge you. And that challenge may come in, you need to get off your ass and go to the gym and sign up to a competition. Or it might be, I'm going to challenge you to stop pushing yourself so hard. Take time out with your family. Get out, go for a walk. Stop being so hard on yourself. And I think that's where sitting in the middle is really important, of that tension of challenge, but also being present and being self-aware of actually what you need and what you need to take you forwards. Because we also go through phases of our life. I'm currently not in a phase where competing, even martial arts, I haven't trained for a while now. And as much as I'm aware that I really need to train and want to train, but that training at the moment, I'd like to be able to get on the mats once a week. I don't need to compete right now. I've spent most of my life competing in martial arts or doing the ultra marathons or whatever the big thing is. That's not actually what I need. What I need is consistency, and I need to build. I'm focusing on my family and my business and stuff like that. And the physical aspects for me is supporting that. How can I show up as a man and a role model better? How can I look after my health? And yes, hopefully put myself in a position where I can go and train more, because I've got more time. I've cleared more stuff off my plate, so I can train more, compete again. I can do an ultra marathon, whatever it is. I can do the big thing when it's needed and when I have the capacity for it, rather than flogging myself just because I think I need to go hard and work harder.
I think there's something to this. How many men, including me in this statement, have we had to say that exact thing to? You don't need more, you need less. Stop beating yourself up. Step back. You're okay. Do what you're doing and do it well. Just don't think there's another bow to be added. There's another string to your bow, sorry. Like you've said that to me on numerous occasions of like, Adam, just be mindful here. You doing that takes away from all of these areas here that you're now going to have to neglect to do X. Is that what you want? Yeah. I think it's really, really powerful to just kind of sit with that, right? And just like, especially with decision making, especially now around this time of year where people go, new me, or there's nothing wrong with that, right? However people want to frame that, that's fine. But where they add more, like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do Y and Z, and what happens? Quitters Friday happens, right? 3 weeks later, people tend to sack it in.
Yeah, I personally, I mean, it is also like setting big goals without the context of how that, as you said, how it's impacting the rest of your life. If I got carried away and be like, Adam, I'm doing the ultra marathon with you, it sounds cracking. It'd add so much pressure to my life to do that many hours of running. Like, it would be ridiculous to do that right now. Yeah, I know once upon a time I would absolutely have done that. But actually what we can do is set ourselves up for bigger goals later in the year. So there may be, I like that concept of doing the hard thing once a year. And, I think last year, the unexpected hard thing I did was walk the Abbott's Way, which is a 23-mile walk across Dartmoor. Which, sad to say, like, after doing those ultra marathons and stuff like that, that broke me. At the end of it, I was in absolute agony. My body was in clip. I mean, I did not train for it. I just thought, The problem is once you do big hard things, you just think you can do anything. Like, yeah, cool. I'm just going to go and do a 23-mile walk across Dartmoor, and it flared up so many injuries for me that by the end of it, I was hobbling. I was in a lot of pain. So that was actually my big hard thing last year. So yeah, I'll probably do another thing, but I'll set that later in the year.
Yeah.
You know, right now, I know what I need to do on a daily basis to be the man that I want to be healthy. We had a goal last year, or I had a goal physically, was to get down to 90 kilos and maintain that, and I didn't hit that. I did maintain the lightest weight I've done so without training martial arts and fighting, so I was very happy with that. But yeah, 90 kilos is my goal this year.
Which is achievable.
And I know what I need to do that.
Exactly. You've got the knowledge. You're waiting till the point where you're able to do it, in the sense of, I'm not saying you're going to wait, I'll start losing weight then. It's like, no, okay, I can do that alongside these things that I'm clearing. Because, as you know, once you start to clear off those things off of the win and clear list, everything else becomes a little lighter, everything else becomes a little easier. Your head's a little clearer, and everything just feels better.
Yeah, exactly that. And then you have more time, and then you can really consider what you say yes to. I think there's a lot of people out there who are probably like me, who say yes to stuff because it sounds like a great idea. Not every opportunity needs to be said yes to, even if it's a good opportunity. And that's why it's so important, I think, to have like a vision and have a plan of what you want to achieve, because you might get some cracking opportunities that knock you way off course.
Yeah.
And yes, you can pivot and change your goals, but doing that mindfully and intentionally isn't really important.
Yeah. That's interesting. Pivoting and changing. You think now, you know, like, I've set this goal, as I'm sure lots of people have set goals that they're going to achieve this year. Maybe they get 4 months in the year and they go, I didn't think of X, Y, or Z, and this thing has just popped up. This thing that I didn't even know existed has just popped up into my life. Doesn't mean you've failed if you step away from the goal. It's like, okay, you've evolved. Now that's different from hopping from one thing to the next every week, but I think the ability to realize when something's not serving you is actually very, I say the word mature, I don't mean it, I think mature has a bad connotation, but like very self-aware. It's like, okay, well, when I set that goal, this was my thought process. Actually, I didn't even think about X, Y, and Z. Well, now that's a thing. My goal's probably going to change. And I've got this opportunity, so I'm going to change to that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Unless you are doing it every week.
Yeah, quite. And I think that's important to have the right men around you as well, like, so you can bring stuff like this to people. Be like, right, you know, I've set this goal, I've told everyone about it, but actually this other thing's come up, or there's so much stuff that's changed in my life, I'm really like questioning whether it's the right thing to do. And that's all really, that's, you know, that's wise to ask those questions, rather than, for instance, where, you know, your ultra marathon, if stuff happened and stuff was happening in your life and it was just like adding too much pressure to do this ultra marathon, and there's other bigger scale stuff like going on, positive or negative, whatever it is, like, you're not failing by choosing not to follow through on that. You're making a decision based off of having more information and situations changing, and that's part of being adaptable. However, having the team around you, the men around you, coaches who can objectively call you out if you are making excuses.
Yeah.
I've been there before, like training for fights and stuff, and all sorts of excuses come up, and you know, you like start questioning, but like, do I really need this in my, and all of those things. Like, you need, you know, that's the training team, that's the coaches around you, because they will call you out if you're basically making excuses. Because we can all everyone has reasons as to why they can change or But it's up to us whether we let those reasons become excuses or if they're genuine reasons and they're like, actually, no, let's be sensible here.
I think there's a very big difference between an obstacle in the path or the need to change path. There's a very big difference with that. And so many people use the obstacle in the path as this, well, I've got to change because I can't overcome that. There are ones that are obviously required. Say, for example, I get 8 weeks out from the ultra and I rupture my ACL. Well, obviously, I am not going to be doing an ultra marathon. But if, for example, I get a recurring like pain or a strain, that I'm not saying I'm going to work through it. I'm saying, but I can turn to places where I can find coping mechanisms that understand what's going on. There's a difference between an obstacle and the path having to be turned away from. And I think people forget that. It's like, well, an obstacle's there, so it means I can't do it. I mean, again, to quote Ryan Holiday, the obstacle is the way, right? It is. If it's an obstacle there that can be overcome, then you should. But if it's something that's completely, there's nothing you can do, then that's very different.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. It's a good book. Ryan Holiday stuff. And saying that, it's Ross Edgley's book, is it The Art of Resilience?
The Art of Resilience, yeah.
Brilliant book. Listen to that while I was training, doing the ultra marathons and stuff. Awesome. Really brilliant book. So definitely recommend that if you've got big physical goals you're doing this year. We've touched a lot on the sort of the physical aspect, and I think it will always be such a fundamental thing, like for everyone, because of the society we live in.
Yeah.
And it's not all about losing weight. It's about health, true health, how we sleep, how we breathe, what we eat, the quality of the food we eat. Health is a massive spectrum, and ultimately we live in a society that doesn't want us to be healthy, to be quite honest.
I heard something pretty strong the other day that really, really spoke to me, is your diet isn't just what you eat. Your diet is everything you consume. And I really like it because I'm like, oh yeah, actually, you think about all the things that go on in your life, everything, like it's everything you consume. And when I say, for me this year, one of my big focuses to improve my health and feel as good as I can be so I can perform is to ensure my diet is as strong as it can be. I don't just mean I'm eating good food. I mean the stuff that goes in my ears, all of it, like what I see, how I breathe, how I sleep, how I train, everything, all of it kind of needs to be in balance. And towards the back end of last year, I got really into trying to understand where my food was coming from and showing my daughter where the food comes from, trying to be as whole source as possible. And that's definitely something I'm taking into this year, is that I am much more determined not to fall into the trap of, well, it's calories and macros and that's it. Because actually, it comes to food, where, like, is it from the UK? Can I support a local business? Can I understand that product, when it's been, say for example, a chicken, is it a higher welfare chicken? Has it been looked after effectively? Or is it a chicken that's been force fed corn until it grows and grows and grows? And I think there's so much of that people will just focus on the macro and they forget the micro, and they forget, and I'm not talking about micronutrients as in vitamins and minerals, I'm talking about the decision making around that. And I'm really, I've gone down a bakery rabbit hole, actually. I've started baking bread and stuff, and that in itself,
love it.
It's good, and I feel good for it because I didn't have any flour in, so I had to buy a loaf of bread. That's a rubbish excuse. It was like from a shop on Boxing Day, right? So we needed some bread, and I didn't have flour in. And I tasted the bread, and the difference to me was night and day from the bread I make. I was like, Oh, that's what all the extra stuff feels like. Because you get so used to it, right? You get so used to just having that all the time. Like, okay, cool. But when you're just like, okay, in this loaf of bread I've made, there's flour, yeast, water, and a little bit of butter. That's it. And I felt really good making it and eating it. So I think it's definitely something I want to
Yeah,
take in.
yeah, yeah. Nice baking your own bread. Yeah, I want to. I've done it a bit before, but admittedly, I haven't at the moment. Baking bread. I really want to make my own sauerkraut.
Oh,
Like that's my goal this year is to ferment stuff. I just want to ferment everything basically. It's just so good for your gut, and yeah, I just want to ferment stuff. I fermented apples last year for the first time, which was cool.
that's cool.
So that yeah, that they were interesting. We've got apple trees, so I was like, I need to find ways of using these apples, and yeah, fermenting them, then putting them on like your porridge and yogurt and all sorts. It was quite good. They were an acquired taste at the beginning, a bit tangy, but yeah, that's cool.
There's a
So
business idea
I
I've ever
think
heard
that.
of.
Yeah, I know, right? Maybe a lot of apple. Oh, I've got a lot of apples to be fair, so there maybe coming soon. I want to make kombucha as well. That'd be great. Anyway, I digress. Onto I reckon this is like what the new midlife crisis is. If you live out in the countryside, is just like fermenting stuff and sourdough and sauerkraut.
Kimchi.
I thought my midlife crisis was going to be way cooler. Apparently not. I'm not there yet. Anyway, we digress. And going back to your diet, I think that's a really powerful one of what you're consuming. So the media you're watching and being really intentional, like your Instagram feed. If you're on Instagram, who are you following?
Mm.
I always find it interesting. I don't do this thing, but like if you look, you like your recommended searches. That for me like is a good like litmus test for what you're being drawn to on your Instagram. And I've always been very sort of proud of it because my partner's sometimes checked every now and again, go and your searching, and just as a laugh, and it's always really good. To be fair, like I'm like yeah, I've not been clicking on the on the things I should be. I've been searching, and then I've seen some friends, and I'm like, wow, okay, I know what you're looking at. Um, is that media like, and I think that's really really important. Like, what are you consuming? And I take that to the stuff the accounts you follow on Instagram. Why are you following them? Is it because the woman's hot? You know what I mean? And it's just being aware of it. And is this stuff educating you, inspiring you, and putting you forward, or are you being triggered by the injustice in the world and stuff? And I'm not saying we need to stick our heads in the sand, but equally we're not engineered to care about every conflict in the world. Like our brains can't deal with that much pain and misery, you
Mm.
know. So is it helping you become a better person? Because ultimately one of the realms of impact we have is obviously our families and our local communities, and then yes, we can influence people online, and I always think, how do I want to influence them? If I'm triggered by something, do I want to share it and trigger everyone else as well so that everyone's angry?
Mm.
Probably not. Is by sharing it going to create more unity or division? I want to ultimately people be more positive and show up themselves as more positive, more disciplined, more faithful men, women, whoever, and just better humans ultimately. So for me, that comes down to, what do you consume? Are you watching stuff that triggers you all the time? Or are you having stuff that inspires you and helps you be a better person? What
Mm.
music are you listening to? I used to love heavy metal. I still do. It's cool. And rap and stuff like that. And I've cleaned up the stuff I listen to a lot. because the messaging is important, I believe, and the energy it puts you in is important. What are you watching on Netflix? If you're watching Netflix, I used to love, I still do, revenge thrillers. It's one of the best genre. It's not, doesn't put you in the great like of forgiving mindsets. Let's put it that way. But being intentional about the media we consume is really important.
I agree. I think it's really it's it can be such a it's so easy to fall into that like kind of that rabbit hole of like it's just becomes more and more, it takes over more of your life. And I on my phone have massively tried to make it a dumb phone as much as possible. I don't want anything on there that's going to distract me. I don't want anything on there that's going to, and when I do go on Instagram, and I catch myself doing it every now and then, and I'm like, oh, what am I doing? Just like scrolling for the sake of scrolling. And then that leads to potentially another bad decision, which then before you know it, I could potentially write off a day because I spent 25 minutes scrolling because I get into that, and I'm just like, no, do I really need this? And I'm not sat here saying I'm perfect because I'm definitely not. I'm just aware of how it affects me, especially in the rest of my day when I feel like I don't have that luxury at this point in my life. So it's like, okay, that's not a thing I can do, so I'm not going to do it. And yes, it's easier said than done. Like I have mechanisms of like I've got one of those brick things where you scan it and it blocks everything on your phone other than someone message you. I've turned off all notifications on my phone. So the only way you can get hold of me immediately is by phoning me. Because if you don't, you have to wait for me to go onto WhatsApp or wait for me to open up messages, because that protects my headspace. It protects what I'm doing, and all I then have is a system where I'm like, okay, well, I'll check my WhatsApp, at points throughout the day when I'm ready to receive those messages, not when you tell me. Like this idea that we're constantly available all of the time is just it hurts because I'm like, there's nothing that is that important. And I think one thing I am going to really try to lean into is that this year is that this can get in the bin if I can get it in the bin. Like if it like decentralize it and say, well, back in the early 2000s when we had an iPod, when we had a Kindle, when we had a notebook, can we do that again? I might even go down the rabbit hole of going buying an old iPod Classic to listen to my music,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. I had very big intentions about, I think, having a phone, just having a WhatsApp phone and then my work phone, which have all the Instagram and the good camera and stuff. And I'm yet to action it, and maybe it's something that I will do. I certainly think when you have around children, especially young children, like seeing my 3-year-old wanting your attention when you're on your phone, and seeing her want, say, my grandparents' attention, and they're glued to their phones, and it's heartbreaking, man. Like, it's really heartbreaking. So, and then they've got to navigate it. When we were kids, we didn't have phones. It was great, and all these kids are now navigating all this tech. So I think being mindful of the whole lot. What are you consuming? How are you spending your time? And for me, that's a big part of this winter clear, is setting things up, setting systems up. How do I want to show up? This is a question we always ask in the Brotherhood. I always, say to the men, how do you want to show up as a man? Whether that be a father, an athlete, a business owner, an employee, whatever it is. How do you want to show up?
Yeah.
And that's the great day-to-day stuff. And that's, I think, how it starts. And that's where we're focusing on. And where we get the guys to focus in on. Because you get most of your habits locked in. Get your systems in. And that's and I'm saying this from someone who needs better systems, needs to clear stuff off. I'm not there yet, but I know where I need to go, and I'm surrounding myself by the right people. And I think that's so important with all of this stuff we've said. Be around the right group of men, that are going to help bring you forward, call you out on stuff, help you with the stuff, that you're not good at. And that way, you're operating or you're giving yourself the best chance of making real change. Because I know, and I see it from loads of people, the new year, new me, lone wolf, doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It's a cycle, and it's the same cycle where people will, I've got to change. I can do it all myself. I know what I need to do. No one can tell me anything. I know what I need. I just need to be better at this. Just need to be better at that. And they last for however long they last, right? I'm not saying, there's a definite, you'll all get to here and then you'll fall off. They last for however long they last. But eventually, something falls off. Then the whole thing falls off. And you beat yourself up. You turn into the things that you know you shouldn't be doing. You eat more food. Your diet that you consume is worse. You feel more terrible. You stop training. Maybe you're a bit more snappy with the people. Maybe all of these things start to creep in. And then lo and behold, you'll listen to something. It'll ping. Oh, no, I should be better. And then you go back through the cycle again. I promise you, to anybody listening to this, doing it together, you are far more likely to succeed. And it's also far better to do it with other men. To sit there and go, yeah, we've all got our own individual lives, but we can all share this journey. And that's so powerful. So powerful.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. And speaking of which, what we're bringing to sort of the Brotherhood and the program this year is going to be incredible. I'm really excited about it. Really, really excited. And yeah, new systems, new apps, new deliverables, meetups, all the things. It's gonna be. I'm very excited about it. So if any of you who are listening want to get involved, want to be surrounded by the right kind of men, people who want support, who are tired of doing it on their own, get in contact with us. Instagram at MakeReadyMen, or check out our website, makereadymen.com. Drop us an email and see how you can get involved. We're working on the new initiation program into the Brotherhood, into our program.
Yeah. I'm so excited for it. Like the stuff we've been talking about and how we're going to take it to market and help people and impact people and share our lives with these men, and then the men share their lives with us. I'm really ready to have that level of impact. Really ready. And I know that from a physical aspect of what I can help men with, it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I mean, and the men are going to benefit from a lot of years of experience, from the physical pillar especially, and we're really knuckling down on that this year. It's, ultimately you got full nutrition and personal training support, as well as the emotional, the spiritual and the mindset development in a group program with other men who are all getting after it. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
It's going to be incredible. Right, dude. Let's leave it there. Guys, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please like it, share it, review it. Anything else? Do all the things that it says to do.
Do all the things that we say to do.
Yeah, every week. But if you can share it with someone who you think will benefit, please do, because we want to have more impact. I think it's very clear. Hopefully it's very clear that we really genuinely care about helping men improve their lives, and us doing our best to lead by example. So let's go. 2026, new year. Thank you for listening. And until next time, guys, just keep showing up.
Go, man.